And Kelly, I have to ask you a question. Is Oklahoma really that good?
I'm also a former Duke softball player.
Take me through what that felt like when that last out was made. This is the final episode of season 1 of Softball Speakeasy. Or is it? Kelly, you have an announcement to make to the audience. Let's get a drum roll, please. I don't know when we'll see you next time, but thank you so much.
We will see you at some time.
Yeah, we'll see you sometime. Da-na-na-na.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Da-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. It's the final episode of Softball Speakeasy. Well, welcome back. Yeah, it is the final episode of season 1 of Softball Speakeasy, the finale. Episode 18. And as a reminder, as always, Softball Speakeasy is presented by the Softball Sanctuary. Use code Speakeasy for 10% off all of their training programs and products at the softballsanctuary.com. Again, code Speakeasy for 10% off at the softballsanctuary.com. But as always, if you are new here, my name is Raine Wilson, and I'm a former Duke softball player turned analyst and broadcaster.
And my name is Kelly Torres. I'm also a former Duke softball player. Wow.
Very recently ended your career, which we'll dig into if you're new here. Softball Speakeasy is a podcast that will be giving you next level access to Duke's 2024 campaign. Duke's 2024 campaign is now finished. So we'll be getting you next level access to something, which actually we have a huge announcement at the very end of the show about the future of this podcast. Yes. So stay tuned for that. We'll be following storylines throughout the college softball season, which just concluded a couple days ago. And we'll aim to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to play softball at the Division I level. This is pretty sad.
It is.
This is pretty sad. It's been one heck of a journey. 18 episodes later, we've documented week to week the season. We haven't missed a week.
Nope.
We've gone from February now to the very end. We have a champion. This is being filmed on Saturday, so this episode might actually come out a little bit early, either Monday or Wednesday. I know we normally do Wednesdays, but might come out a little bit earlier. But man, just this is going to be a reflection episode on the year and the World Series. And what are your emotions like right now as an alum of Duke softball?
I was surprised that I wasn't in distraught. You know, like I felt okay with my end. I felt okay with this ending. I mean, regular season champs, ACC tournament champs. We passed super regionals, which we've never done. We made it to the World Series, and although we were 0-2 in Oklahoma, we made it.
You made it. You made it. And let's dig into the World Series because I got a few questions. We'll talk about the end. We'll dig into that moment because it was very emotional for everybody. But like you said, it was also contentment across your team. But from the Super Regional to the World Series, I know we had the last week's episode, we talked a little bit about, or 2 weeks ago, we talked a little bit about being there. But now that you've played in games, what are some things that surprised you about being in Oklahoma City at the World Series? Yeah. What are your biggest takeaways? Give the audience some inside scoop into that experience.
Well, I loved how we were treated. I felt like a pro. And I've never felt like that before. I mean, cameras were everywhere. They even had that camera on strings that you see at football games. Yeah. Crazy. Press conferences, journalists. There was post and pre-game conferences and teasers and video stuff. And, I mean, everything you can think of. Photo shoots. And it's awesome to see because with more journalists comes more coverage. And so I guess I was surprised. I mean, Duke Stadium isn't as big as many SECs are, but the game is growing, and it really is.
And speaking of that, too, most watched Women's College World Series final in history.
Wow.
Between OU and Texas, 2 million viewers. And we had a shout out ESPN. I mean, their coverage, like you mentioned, was insane from the drone shots. And I know you didn't watch because you were playing, but man, it was it was such beautiful storytelling of all of your stories. And so I want to dig into that first game. Obviously, we previewed facing Oklahoma. And Kelly, I have to ask you a question. Is Oklahoma really that good?
Bro, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And especially watching their, like, not even our game, but how they ended it is just like, Patty Gasso's a living legend. And there was a part of me in the beginning that didn't want OU to win. I'm like, it's time for a new champion. And I played Tiara Jennings and all of these, all other people, those seniors, and how cool for them to get a 4-peat. Like, never done before. A class, they don't know how to lose, literally. And so I was happy for them. At the end, I was rooting for them, and, that class really deserves it.
Yeah, they did. And it's really cool that we began the podcast journey in February with that question. Like, is Oklahoma really that good? And 1,000% the answer is yes.
Full circle moment.
And what has been crazy to me about watching their progression is like this wasn't the same story as it was last year. Like last year they were the most dominant, only losing one game to Baylor. This year they had some roadblocks and felt like the underdog, but in the World Series, they were unstoppable.
Yeah.
And their whole lineup, I mean, to name the one that sticks out to me, I mean, Kenzie Hansen is like so clutch, so good, and just so much fun to watch and to see her emotions after winning the championship. Yeah. It was really, really cool. And I want to ask you this, like, what is your impression of Oklahoma and what they do for our sport? Do you think the dynasty and the 4-peat and the consistent success is good for softball? Or do you think it hurts our sport for the average viewer?
I think it's grown. I think the Oklahoma Sooner fan base compares to no one. And I think they have grown it, but I think if they continue to win, it does give us a little bit of a bad rep because, like, why is one team so dominant in a sport? You don't see that, Even Alabama football, like, they lost sometime.
Right.
So I think it's coming up. I do not think next year that they will win, and not against them, but I just think there's so many good teams up and rising.
Right.
And I just think it's their time,
Yeah. They have elevated the bar of our sport.
Have.
And I think and especially the fan base, like, they have elevated our sport and what it means to support women's sports in general. But to your point too, like, for the average viewer, if I saw a league where the same team won every single year, I would wonder about the parity. I would wonder about how good the rest of the teams are.
Yeah.
But then you look at, UConn women's basketball and where basketball is now. And then you look at, the Patriots. They were kind of that team that everyone was like, can they stop winning? And then, of course, University of North Carolina women's soccer, repeat. So I think in the grand scheme, we have seen this, but in the moment, it obviously doesn't feel good for softball fans to have the same result. But I think this year was an exception. 4 years in a row, unprecedented. Just wanted to say from both of us, you are that good, Oklahoma.
Yes, you are.
Congratulations on that.
Our first loss of the season and our last loss of the season.
No, Alabama.
Oh, wow. I forgot that. Okay, scratch that. But first game of the season to having them at the end as well.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about that too, because one of my years at Duke, we began the season against Notre Dame. We beat them. Ended the season against Notre Dame, and they whooped our tail. And all that is to say, like, teams grow and change and evolve throughout the season, as you all did, as Oklahoma did. What was the biggest difference you saw in Oklahoma from game one to that first game of the Women's College World Series, like 55 games later?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't shy away. When the moment got big, they got big. And I think our bats weren't alive. I mean, if we came out like we did against VT in regular season or Clemson in regular season, totally different ball game. But that's the game of softball. Sometimes you're hot and sometimes you're not. And it's not like we weren't playing bad. I mean, we just weren't excelling to the full potential that Duke softball could have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Oklahoma, big moments come and they're big players.
Yeah, they do not shy away from the moment. And another thing too is, like, it's not like they run-rolled everybody throughout the tournament. They went down to Florida. They lost to Florida pretty handedly, and then they still went like kept at it. And like that to me is so impressive, because I also think like staying at the top is so much harder than playing as an underdog trying to get to the top. But we'll congratulations, Oklahoma. We'll move on to Duke and dig into a little bit more about the emotions entering that game. Like, this is going to be out there forever.
Mm-hmm.
So let's imagine you're talking to future Kelly. What were the emotions like when you walked onto the field, your first at bat? Like, were there nerves? Like, take us through what it felt like to look around and see thousands of people, cheering against you, and then some, of course, cheering for you.
Yeah. Well, first at bat was against Kelly Maxwell. I go up and I'm just like, wow, like, all right, this is my moment. This is what I've worked so hard for so many hours. So, fans don't see that. They don't see the amount of hours you put in and like, my gosh, high school, like to college, all the training, summers and breaks and all the things I've sacrificed were for this moment. And I was just like, you're here. Just let go. Just go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my body knows what to do. Just do it. And so I got in that box and saw 4 pitches and took myself to first base. So, I don't think that I made it bigger than what it was. I was just like, it's just another game, just another at bat. And I could say I went away, although my numbers aren't what I wanted at the end. And any player could say that.
Right.
That's not what you want, but I'm happy and content with how I competed every at bat.
Absolutely. And it from the fans. So another piece of this was within like 48 hours of you all making it to the World Series, we all mobilized, got a house in Norman, actually, like on Oklahoma's campus. All the alums went and got to go to the World Series, which was insane to be there as a fan and to see people and, of course, to see you. It was so emotional. And I don't know if you ever played in that tournament there as a kid.
No.
Yeah, so I played there when I was like 13, but that was like the last time. It's obviously grown a ton, but you all didn't look phased. Of course, you didn't play your best softball, but who cares? Like, we talked about the journey to get there, and that's just one step. And you said it since the beginning of the year, like every year you get better and better and better. And Team 8, maybe.
Yeah. We mentioned last podcast that we wanted to play in June.
Yeah,
and we lost on May 31st. So you know what? Our goal this year was to make it to the World Series. Team 8's goal is to play in June. That's their goal.
That sucked. That really sucked because, like today for June. But I will say we're going to count that because the tournament ended in June.
Yeah.
So although you didn't step on the field in June together, you still had team activities in June.
I don't know why I thought that the tournament started in June.
It does sometimes. But that's the thing. Sometimes the tournament, depending on the weeks and the year, like I think a couple years ago it started June 1st.
Yeah.
So like,
we just needed to play one
Are you
more
kidding
day.
me?
They should have just pushed it back.
I know. I want to ask you, so you mentioned you took that 4-pitch walk.
Yes.
There's a lot of buzz on Twitter currently about bat slamming after a 4-pitch walk.
Yes.
So in particular, if you're not sure what we're talking about in particular Alyssa Brito, the Oklahoma third baseman who, when she walks, she'll throw a bat slam and get the crowd hyped. And there's a lot of people that think, hey, that's a bit dramatic or whatever. But I wanted to get your thoughts and reactions to bat slamming on a walk.
Unnecessary. I'm not a fan of it. If you listen to Patty Gasso's conference or interview after the game, she says they are not sorry for their passion that they play with. And I don't know how I feel about that because when I see a 4-pitch walk, it's part of the game. I play the game. You played the game.
Yeah.
You don't build that type of emotion from a walk. Maybe you do. I don't know. But it seems very fake and forced. And I think that's what I have a problem with is like passion should come natural. And like when you walk and you're, I guess it's like to hype up the crowd and to hype your team up. And I get it, you're winning, so you can't really, get for it. But I don't know. I feel like if they were losing, they would get a lot more hate from it.
Right. No, totally. That's kind of my take on it is like, you can really do whatever you want if you're 4-time natty champs. And one thing I will say about that whole thing is like she does that and they do that every single game. Like it doesn't matter if it's the World Series or if it's game 1. That is truly who they are, what they do. Yes. I'm trying to think of like another sport, like a comparable thing in another sport. It's almost like if the other team gets a holding call on you or something and you're like losing your mind, super pumped. I'm trying to think if anyone can think of like another sport
comparison
to relate it to, but it's a goofy, it's like for softball fans, it's kind of like a strange thing. But again, 4-time national champs, you can do whatever you want.
Like, we can start hating maybe when they start losing, but they're not.
Right.
So who are we to say anything?
And it's almost like when you do things like that, you build yourself up. If you do lose, you're going to hear about it. Like, you're going to get, like, trolled on Twitter for it.
And that's when it started, when they lost to Florida.
Right. Oh, yeah. And then, like, the when it panned across the Florida dugout, and they're all like, what? Like, Florida also played really well. That Keegan Rothrock was, she played for the Lady Dukes, right? So,
yes, the pitcher.
Yeah. She was awesome to watch, and I felt so bad watching her season end. But speaking of season ending, so you all lost to Oklahoma, then you came back and played Alabama.
Yeah.
Game did not go your way. Congratulations to Alabama. Greg, I know you were pumped. It was, of course, sad to see y'all's season end. But when that last out was made, and your time in a Duke uniform is over, take me through the emotions. I know you kind of touched on it earlier, but just take me through what that felt like when that last out was made.
Yeah. I mean, I remember looking in the dugout and just seeing kind of everyone's head drop. And I don't know, it's, but you don't want to believe it. But it's done. And you're watching, Alabama cheer and go crazy. And yeah, I mean, they made it. They made it to the next round. So congrats to them. But you can't help but feel sorry, not only for yourself, but your team and the teammates. And like, you kind of start feeling their emotions. And I did not cry on the field, but looking after we did high fives and then I looked up into the stand is when I really felt it. And if anything, it hurt me more seeing my parents because I'm the last of the bunch. I'm the last child. They're not following softball. Well, maybe we might talk about that later. But they're not following Duke softball anymore. And the tears that were coming down their face, your guys' face, the alumni were crying, everyone up there. And I'm just like, It's you're crying, and it's like crying of joy and love. It's not like, distraught, like I was saying earlier. But it was just like, you guys did it. And like, I just feel for you because you loved it so much. Yeah.
And like, in the moment, of course, it's hard to have like the perspective of, and of course, I am 26 years old. I'm no guru. Your parents are more gurus than any of us, but you have this perspective of this like chapter closing, and you're right. It was complete. I was sitting next to your parents when the final out was made, and that they've made me cry because it happened, and they both just like put their heads down, and I like could not control myself. Like it was also like tears that like you're not even like crying. It's just like falling from your eyes. And we're all like hugging each other. And it was more so too, because like not only does your season end, like this ends, and although I knew it would have ended that week, it was kind of like, wow, it's like, it's over. And we played together. That was the final group that I'd played with. And so that was like a chapter ending, and also just feeling sad but also so happy for you. And you're in the seniors is like, you did it. Yeah. Like you like this exhale of like, you did it. You broke the barrier down, and it was really like special. And then of course we saw y'all at the bus after, and everyone's crying more, but tears of joy for sure.
Yeah. I mean, what a better way to end it. Seriously, we did what we set out to do, and the teams before that I've played on with Raine, and that's always been our goal. And now I can leave knowing like, Raine, like you were a part of that. The teams that I've touched were a part of that. And we couldn't have done it without, those building blocks and those teams and people setting the standards. And I'm happy that our group was the one able to do it.
Totally. And well, now that it's over, so we can dig into a little bit what we did after. We all went, had a party. It was awesome. All the graduates came, parents. We like took over this bar, saying every time we touch. It was really special.
It was
all dancing together, and it was like a really joyous night. But as soon as that last out was made, you are no longer a part of the team. So you don't necessarily. You're pretty honest normally. But now, hey, there's no team rules. There's no coach texting you. You know, there's no potential.
I'm a free woman.
There's no potential punishment runs. There's nothing like that. So I want to ask, like, what are some things that you will not miss about playing in college, playing softball in college?
I will not miss the run test. Will not miss the run test. Although I would say it does build character.
Totally.
And, you know, it's a great thing, but I will not miss it. I will not also miss knowing in the back of my head always that, like, I represent something bigger.
Yeah.
You know? And I still do as an alumni, but it's more of like, I'm not going to be wearing the gear anymore and I'm not going to be doing all that stuff. So they might think I'm just Mary Jo down the street and I can just kind of act loose like I am. And I think that's going to be exciting. I'm also just excited to make my own schedule, you know, and that's going to be great. And I feel like I'll be able to eat better because when you're on the road, it's, you know, sandwiches, whatever you can find in the snack bag and things like that. I'm ready. I'm ready to just grow up, and who knows? I don't have a job yet. So if you want to give me a job, give me a job. But good things are happening. You know, if I embody the things I've learned at Duke softball, you know, living a life of excellence and being the best woman in the room, I'm going to be far in life. You know, it's going to take me far. Absolutely.
And like those like little parts that are ingrained in you now will never leave. Like the hard work, being on time, like no joke.
I mean, the dedication we had to this podcast.
Oh yeah.
That's something big.
Yeah. We never missed a week. We didn't miss a week. I mean, we had to take some time between the final out and now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it will carry with you. But there are plenty of parts, and as the further you get out, and I can only speak for myself though, but the more fondly you look at everything, and you forget the dark days, like the tough times, like the schoolwork and coming home from a game and you have to do a paper. Like people forget that as fans too, that you're a student and now you're done with that too. So it's a really exciting time, and we'll only continue to get more honest here on this podcast. No, we've been very straight up about everything since the get-go, but now that, you know, there's always that anxiety of you're representing a team, and you also don't want to speak for every individual on that team, but now you are your own individual, and I want to properly welcome you to the Duke alumni group chat.
Nice. Thank you.
You're already in, right?
Yeah.
So
I was added actually right after we lost.
I know. I was like, that's kind of cold. Like,
welcome to the club. I was just like, gosh, I just lost literally like 30 minutes ago.
Couldn't give me like 48 hours. I know. We saw all of y'all get added and we're like, oh, okay. Like, I think we were trying to plan what we were going to do, but yeah. And do you know the next time you'll be back to Duke? Like probably alumni weekend?
When we get our rings.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's exciting. Yeah. So you'll be back for that. And then Team 8. So a lot of folks sending questions. We really wanted to focus this episode on what we're talking about now, like a review of the year and where Kelly's headed next and just things like that. But one thing that kept popping up was a way too early Team 8 prediction.
Oh, wow.
Or overall, we can do way too early 2025 season prediction. So what is your impression of Duke next year? And give us your overall take on the team heading into 2025 with Stanford and Cal coming into the mix.
Oof. So Duke 8 kind of reminds me of Team 6. You know, remember when Peyton and Tina and that huge group left?
Yes.
And then our class as juniors were now like, holy crap, just 10 people who were very staple in our team just left. I think that's going to be another rerun of that. You know, like we were a really big group that left and we were a foundation. And I think, the people who are below us, they know what to do. So it's like us when we were juniors. In the fall, it's going to be shaky. Like every team losing a big class, it's going to be shaky. But in the fall, it's going to be really important for them to figure out who they are because every team is different.
Yeah.
They find their identity, their culture, how to run things. I don't see them skipping a beat coming the next season.
Yeah.
Especially with Coach Young back there. It's like, I think she can really put together. I mean, she has for the past 7 years put together a really great program. So I don't see why it'd change.
Yeah, and just digging back into that Team 6, that was the year this was last season. Yeah, Team 7, Team 6. Yeah, last season when all of those seniors left, and there's a lot of question marks like across the country too. People were like, we'll see if they're good. Like they lost a lot of arms, they lost a lot of bats. Like we'll see, and also like leadership wise, and you guys didn't skip. I mean, not only did you not skip a beat, you've got better. Yeah, you hosted a super regional for the first time, and I think to your point, like there's also a benefit of the lack of expectations potentially. We'll see what the softball world has to say about Duke next year. But I'm spot on with you, and also like you're still bringing back a lot of really, really key pieces.
Exactly.
And they'll be upperclassmen. It's so weird to think of
I know
that class
seeing
as being
Amina
juniors. I know.
As a junior, I'm just like, it's like my heart. Jada, Baker, Anna as seniors, I see them as children. I felt like such a mom this past year.
Totally.
Like these were my kids, and now they're the moms.
Yeah. Do you think you'll watch softball next year a lot? Or okay.
I think so. Especially, I don't know. There's a big piece of my heart still with Duke softball. And
totally.
I'm forever gonna be a fan, and I want to watch all of their careers flourish. So.
Yeah. Totally. And so then across college softball, are there any teams that come to mind as, hey, that team's gonna be really good? Or who are your 2025?
Texas A&M really cut their season shorter than I thought they would. I think them going to Texas was very hard, but how they played, I mean, that was a World Series,
caliber
game.
Team. Yeah,
it was, and I think they're gonna be coming back for blood because they knew that they should have been there. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what Texas A&M does next year.
Okay, you got A&M. I'm gonna go with Florida.
That's a good one.
Florida and then UCLA. And then, of course, Texas is going to be really good next year as well. But Florida this year, they were, to me, the biggest surprise. Rothrock, Ava Brown, those pitchers. I mean, what a job. She was one of the most polished freshmen I've ever seen in the circle. They were really fun to watch. And then, of course, Texas will be good. UCLA is going to be right back. And I mean, most of the teams in the World Series, I think, will be back and be really good as well. And I also think you can't count out Florida State. Like, Lonnie Alameda knows how to develop pitchers.
They were young this year.
They were young. They always find a way to, like, get a really, really solid transfer. That's a whole nother thing. The transfer portal is loading up with folks. So, yeah.
Also, Baylor made a really good run, and next year they're getting a pretty dang good pitcher. So Lily Walker is going to be over at Baylor.
Yes,
another team to watch out for.
Did she post yet?
I'm not sure. I'm sorry if we announced this too early, but everyone knows. Lily Walker's going to Baylor.
Yeah, Lily Walker's headed to Baylor. What a get for Baylor. Yes. She's going to be absolutely incredible. So excited to watch her.
They made it to a supers. Who knows? Maybe the missing piece was one more pitcher.
I think so. And Lily Walker is an absolute dog and a great leader and like just all around great teammate, great culture piece to any team that she would have chosen to play for. But speaking of teams to play for. So this is the final episode of season 1 of Softball Speakeasy. Or is it? Kelly, you have an announcement to make to the audience. Go for it. Let's get a drum roll, please.
I am playing professional softball.
Woo! Woo!
All right, guys. So I got drafted not drafted. There was no draft. I signed to the Texas Monarchs. It's a new team in the WPF. So I'll be playing in Austin, Texas. And I was like, why not have pod on the go? Bring the podcast to Austin. And there's going to be so many players on my team from different, places of the world, different colleges and universities that they played at. So I'm excited to see another perspective than Duke softball. And, how was their careers? What did they think? And where did they see softball going? So I'm excited.
It's amazing. Congratulations, Kelly.
You.
So well deserved. Mike bump. Boom.
Yep.
So well deserved. Texas Monarchs. Monarchs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Monarchs.
Follow the Texas Monarchs. Follow Kelly, and we're gonna keep this thing cruising. So the original plan was we're gonna do it seasonally, and we figure why not why not have Kelly take the podcast on the go and interview her teammates and other professional players? And every now and then, our game plan right now is to you and I do some remote just to catch up and things like that. But it will look different. But give us your feedback on what that looks like. And we're actually we're gonna cap off season 1. And this will be season 2 of Softball Speakeasy. So stay tuned because it's not over yet. You're going to have content all summer long.
Also, I do want to say Raine this past season has done an incredible job of editing and doing the social media and writing these scripts and, being an awesome host. Literally, we should clap it up.
Oh, thank you.
But I would say that I'm now going to be kind of in charge of the script. So style might be a little different. I'm going to be a little bit new at it. So give me feedback. I'd love to hear what you guys think and want to hear, especially with professional athletes. So yeah, I'm excited. Just might be a little bit of a different style.
Yeah, it could be. And that is going to be awesome. It's going to be a completely new style, and it's going to be really, really fun to get a brand new perspective. And this is also a great opportunity for you all to let us know what you want. Like if this style of Softball Speakeasy could be better, let us know what you're expecting. And so please comment below right now or DM us on Instagram at SB Speakeasy what you want to hear from pro athletes, because that is the direction we're going in. And speaking of pro athletes, there was another big announcement of the AUSL.
Oh, yes.
Athletes Unlimited Softball League, 4 traditional teams. So for folks who don't know, Athletes Unlimited has been a single player structure where they move around teams, and it's a point system. So there's one winner at the end of the season. Now they're going to do 4 traditional teams starting in 2025. I want to get your initial thoughts on that announcement and how you kind of see that going.
Yeah. I'm a hater, not going to lie.
Okay.
Because I hate that it's 3 different leagues, 4 teams here, 4 teams there, 4 teams there. It's not going to grow the sport when there's too many things to watch. I wish they'd all combine. If AUSL wanted to do it, make 10 teams, because how many players can get into that league if there's only 4? There's so many good softball players, and having only 4 teams isn't enough. I mean, that's why there's 3 leagues, because we can't all fit into AU. And I don't know, how women's hockey has been going, how women's soccer has been going. I mean, they have been examples that a women's sport can be created and flourish. And I mean, why can't softball? Why can't we make one league and there's a draft and there's teams all over the country? Fan bases in Florida can start liking one Florida team, and, you actually start having fans. And I think that's the next stage of softball. It's once we have one league kind of following the MLB, obviously not the same because we can't play in the same field, but that kind of style is when this game is going to flourish.
I could not agree more. But I am excited that they have like some really good partnerships, like Jessica Mendoza, Kat Osterman, Natasha Watley are partnering with the AUSL to hopefully make that happen at some point. The issue has got to be money. It's hard to pay these athletes appropriate amounts of money, and I think I saw something like they'll be paid between $45,000 and $75,000 for 30-game season, which is awesome.
Yeah,
that's a huge deal. And we'll see how it shakes out, but I do want to read part of the press release. So in 2025, the AUSL is a pro women's softball league operating in a traditional format. It'll be a 30-game season with games in 6 to 8 different cities. But in 2026, it'll be a city-based league. So to your point about it's oversaturated. There's just too many teams. And if we had the same structure as the MLB, where the AA or single A, AA, AAA, big leagues, it would be just so much more ideal. And we talked about this on the live show, and I actually just did a little interview the other day about this. It's like MLFP, Major League Fast Pitch, have sister the already existing MLB teams, build them. This will take years and years and years to do. Imagine a green monster of softball, like Fenway Park of softball, and use these fan bases. The only issue that I see is that baseball plays so much April to November, so I'm not sure when softball would fit in, because you don't want half the people choose between MLB and MLFP. But to your point about there's just so many leagues, and it makes it diminishes the championship of any of them. Because, oh, you won the WPF or you won AUSL. Well, there is a team in the other league that's maybe better, but we don't know. We've never seen these two teams play. Mm-hmm. So, but I do think it's exciting that ESPN is gonna broadcast AUSL and that they have some good people at the top to run that organization. But overall, congratulations. You're playing professional softball. Yeah. You're going to be in Austin, Texas, which is so cool. And you're leaving next week, right?
Yeah, Thursday.
Wow. And so let's dig into that a little bit. Like, what are your emotions like? And I know you're not there and your feet aren't on the ground, but playing again, but not playing in a Duke uniform. Like, what does that feel like?
Yeah. It's unreal that softball is not ending for me. You know, right. Duke is ending, but softball isn't. And it's like, looking back at high school, only a couple went to college and played. Right. Looking at college now, only a couple are leaving my team to go continue to play in professional league. So it's like, it's really kind of full circle and like warming, knowing that like I'm continuing on and like that little girl, 8 years old, who first put on a glove and, you know, wanted to play softball, is like, that dream is still living.
Totally.
So it's a pretty cool feeling. Also seeing all the people who are in the group chat and, you know, they're all stars among SEC, ACC, you know, Big 12. I mean, it's cool that every, you know, conference is being put in pro. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's also like special. And I've talked to Peyton St. George, Caroline Jacobson. We had a bonus episode with them like near the beginning about the progression of saying goodbye and how if you can have it be like kind of one thing at a time, like say bye to Duke. Okay. Say bye to school. Now say bye to this, say bye to that. It really like lessens the blow of it, and the like trauma is maybe a little bit dramatic, but like truly any alumni you talk to after a year, you're like, wait, what? Like you're so used to playing. And so it's like this weird itch that you can't scratch. So I'm really, really happy that you get to just continue to scratch that itch, and kind of like progressively say goodbye to this part of your life. Because Duke, obviously 4 years in that washing machine of intensity is impactful on you. So, but one thing you will not have to say goodbye to is Kelly on the mic.
Yep.
Kelly gonna be on the mic for the summer. We're really, really excited. And as we kind of wrap this episode, it might be a little bit longer than normal, might be exactly on time, but we just wanted to thank you all so much for all of the support this year and for following us at SP Speakeasy on all platforms and liking and reviewing the podcast. Like it means the absolute world to us. And we've had so much fun doing this thing. And, Kelly, I've had just such a blast with you, and I don't know when we'll be on this couch together again, if ever.
I know.
When? That's so sad.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Alumni weekend, maybe?
Alumni.
Oh, my God. That's sad.
I want to say thank you as well. I mean, it's been awesome coming out after games and hearing, like, I loved your episode, and, like, people coming up to you in person has been super cool. And hearing the podcast being said while I'm playing on the Women's College World Series field is unbelievable. So this podcast definitely went a lot further, and, you know, unbelievable what we did in only one season together.
Yeah. And funny that you mentioned that. I do want to tell a quick, like, story. So we were in the stands. Well, and you kind of touched on it. ESPN mentioned the podcast on ESPN during y'all's game.
5
People were texting me. I know. Seriously, 5 followers added. Shout out to you 5.
Yes.
But no. So that was like really cool. People were texting us about that. But more so, I think is like the coolest thing ever. We were sitting by the front. First of all, our seats were in the nosebleeds, but we like snuck down at the front.
Yeah.
And Holly Rowe came by, and the alumni were talking to her, and they went to take a picture, and I like went up because I saw them, and I just got in the picture real quick. And then she turned to me and she was like, oh my gosh, I stole my story that I just did from the podcast about Today for June or something. I think it was the Today for June one. Yeah. So how freaking cool is that? That's something we talked about on here, made it out to ESPN, and Holly Rowe, who's like cool. Amazing.
If you're watching this,
hi Holly.
It was also very cool. I was able to talk to Jessica Mendoza, Beth Mowens, Michelle Smith, Holly Rowe. It's like, that's kind of really cool.
It's awesome. And What a special experience. You're wearing the hat right now.
Yes.
Just a special year. Like I can't even believe that this is how it all turned out when I think I texted you in maybe January, December about doing the pod. And now you made it to the World Series, and
what an awesome year to do the podcast. Because imagine if we lost in regionals.
I know.
I would still want to, follow through and cover it, but it'd be sad.
It would suck. And even if y'all lost in supers, it still would have been sad. Like, and so it's like really cool because we would have talked about it either way. And that was like one thing going into it that I was a little nervous about was like, hey, what if you have a bad year, or what if you get hurt? God forbid you get hurt or something like bad happens, but it ends up being this like magical year that we got to document, and it will be there forever on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where you can rate us 5 stars, give us a kind review if you have time. But overall, incredible year. Comment below what you want to see in season 2, which will be coming up soon with Kelly and her pro teammates on Softball Speakeasy. Let us know what you want to hear about. Let us know the format. Give us all the goodies. Please follow us at SB Speakeasy on Instagram, X, Facebook, so you can keep up to date with when the episodes are going to come out and all that good stuff. And we thank you so much for tuning in this year. And I don't know when we'll see you next time, but thank you so much.
We will see you at some time.
Yeah, we'll see you sometime.
Aww.
Thank you all so much. Peace.